Hi, I'm Mrs. Yanarella, and I'm the reading teacher here at Grass.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Malloy, and I am the librarian here.
We are so excited to be with you today for episode 1 of Teacher Talk Tuesday. We are celebrating Read Across America Week this week at Grass, and it's kicking off our celebration of National Reading Month in the month of March. We're going to provide you some fun tips that you can use at home to celebrate reading with your learners. The first thing that I want to tell you is to encourage you to read. Read together. Read in the morning, read after lunch, read at night. Just grab a book and read together. It is such a special, valuable time for you and your child to have a book together, to read, to really experience whatever the plot is in the story, and then talk about it. It's an amazing opportunity to make connections, to make predictions, and then to reflect upon what you've read. You'd be surprised how special that opportunity really becomes for your family.
So to piggyback what Mrs. Yanarella was saying, I have pulled some series books that are great to read with your child, whether they can read or not, because you can expand on the vocabulary. So the reason why series books are good choices for younger readers is because you're not constantly introducing new characters. You're not constantly introducing new settings. So they kind of start the book and they have a little bit of a head start. So this is a favorite one for here. This is called Heroes in Training. And in this, it follows the Greek gods, Zeus, Thor. It follows the Greek gods, but when they are children. So it's really interesting for boys and girls alike. This is another great one. This is the Chicken Squad. And they're just fun. They have mysteries. They're silly. They're fun. And they brought in the vocabulary, and the plot is a little bit more in-depth than a regular picture book. This is another one, Warren and the Dragons, another great series. And this is Heidi Heckelbeck and then Henry Heckelbeck. So these are great choices for your young readers because it gives them a head start with the characters, with the setting. Back to you.
Now, as we talk about our older readers, sometimes it's hard to find that time to sit down and read together, and we understand that. So I want to encourage you to read perhaps the same book simultaneously, but separately, so that you can discuss what's going on in the book. So it's almost like you have your own family book club. So you don't need to carve out that time together necessarily if you're super busy one night, but if you're both reading the same book, you can follow along and you can really discuss and have amazing, deep conversations about the text that you are reading.
So again, to piggyback Mrs. Yanarella, there are so many picture books because I know it can be overwhelming if you're trying to read your own adult books and then you're going to read another, 200-300 page book that your child is reading. So these are picture books, but they spark amazing conversation, and you're going to be surprised at how interesting these can be. This is called Pass and Go, and this is how Monopoly was invented. This is the Boo-Boos That Changed the World, and yes, you guessed it, it's how the Band-Aid was invented. And here is another one, Mr. Ferris and His Wheel, how the Ferris wheel was invented. These are probably things that you don't think of, like when you wake up, like, oh, I wonder where a Band-Aid came from. But it's a really interesting story, and it sparks some conversation and curiosity. For our animal friends, these are great picture books that tell the story of animal survival. We have so many children just connect so well with animals, so these are great for them. Here is one that I love. This is You Never Heard of Sandy Koufax, and it's the story of, I've heard of him, but I didn't know this story, and it was how he struggled when he entered the Major League Baseball League, and because he was Jewish, and I would have never thought that, but it's how he struggled because people treated him differently because he was Jewish, and it's a great, great book. This is one of my favorite authors for older children, Patricia Polacco. Her stories, they're picture books, but they are definitely not intended for kindergarten, first or second grade. Mm-hmm. They challenge the students to really think. This one was actually, thank you, Mr. Faulkner, my daughter introduced this to me one time in Barnes & Noble when she was younger. And I was in Barnes & Noble, like, wiping my eyes because I was crying because it was embarrassing, but it was such a touching story. And the students love the books. So if you don't feel like you can jump into a chapter book, picture books are phenomenal. They really challenge the kids. Now, if you can get into a chapter book, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's called Refugee, and it's the story of, it's 3 time periods, and it is families trying to leave their country with, because the circumstances are not good, and they are leaving their country with young children. So, and it's told from the young child's viewpoint. So there is a boy escaping Germany during World War II. There is a girl escaping Cuba under Fidel Castro. And then there is a boy escaping Syria in 2015. So it's amazing. It's a great history lesson. It sparks a ton of conversation. I have read this to 2 5th grade classes this year, and they love it. Every single student loves it. They ask such great questions. So this is a phenomenal book to read with your child. They can read it on their own. This might be needed to be read to them, but they love it. So I highly recommend Refugee. Back to you, Miss Janarella.
So we just encourage you to grab a book, read it with your child, spend that quality time. It will mean so much to them. It will be a memory that they have for a lifetime. And if you can't do that, then as Mrs. Malay said, try to find a book that you can both read separately, but then discuss and have amazing conversation after you're finished or throughout the story. Thank you so much for listening, and we can't wait to see you next Tuesday.